I had another. I went before I couldn't sail on British ships. I got a job from a Norwegian British company, and they were building a new ship in Emden in Ostfriesland in Germany. And so they sent me there, and here am I from Ballyneal, Ballincollig, you know. They give me an expense account.
Oh my gosh.
First class all the way, which wasn't the whole big, but still. And stayed in a hotel for 3 months while I designed the radio room and ordered all the equipment. They give me this young
And
deal.
how old are you at this time?
I was, I was probably 20.
20 years old.
Yeah, that's right. 1955, yeah.
Okay.
And I ordered all the equipment, and it was the equipment I liked, of course, that I ordered, except for the radar. They bought their own radar, and we had trouble with it. And I reminded them of that. So we had a great time there. So I even had a party at the hotel for a whole bunch of people, and put the expense in, and they paid it.
Wow.
So then we went to, the ship then left port for sea trials. When a ship is new, they take it out for trials, put it through its paces, and then it's signed off. Then it's the owners. But that was a great experience. So there were big, important industrialists from all over Europe on the ship, because it was revolutionary.
I see.
A lot of things about it were new. In fact, when we came to New York, we had the TV or whatever, some news cameras on board. But everything was fine. I had to sign off. Son of a gun. The day after, the main transmitter went down. So I had to operate on the emergency transmitter, and I worked on it night and day. And anybody who's been on radio in those days, a lot of it was resistors, capacitors, and vacuum tubes. And to get a certain kind of resistance, you parallel or you series. So I did all this kind of thing so that I had a glob of resistors about this big hanging out of the transmitter. And I got it working. And then we get to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the engineer came on board. He couldn't believe it that I got it working. But on that ship, I was on that for a year and a half. And
what's the name of that ship?
It was the William M. Curry.
William M. Curry.
Yeah, Currie. But I was in port, and while I was in London, I met this Scottish radio officer at the Union headquarters, and it turned out he was going to the same port. So of course we're looking for bars and we're looking for women, and the place was dead, you know. So
Halifax.
No, not Halifax. Now let's go back to Emden.
Oh,
again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I got
no
wrong.
problem.
So finally we found this place. I think it was called the Black Cat, Schwarzkatz or something like that.
Schwarzkatz.
Yeah. So we were in there. There was nobody else in there. And there were 2 bartenders, a nice trim lady with black hair. I still remember her name, but I don't want to say it. And I remember the second one. There was a big, heavy woman.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were trying to coax these 2 women to the other side of the bar.
Yeah.
And finally, Petra came out and sat next to me. And then the door opened, and a bunch of guys came in, Germans and British. And one of the British guys, a pretty big guy, bigger than me, got interested in Petra, and he wanted her to dance. And she said no, and he was insisting. And I turned around and went like that, and then the fight was on. So here we are. Yeah, I mean, thrown out on the sidewalk again. Well, this was prior to the other incident, and we woke up out on the sidewalk, and the heavy-set lady came around from back, around a side door or something, and oh my God, it was the best thing that ever happened to us, because they nursed us for all the time after. We took us in back, you know.
Oh my God.
Oh, but you know, the fun part of this is the day after the incident, there was a meeting on the ship of all the officers. So I walk in, who's there? All the guys.
That you fought with.
that we fought with, that I fought with.
So what did you guys do?
And the guy that I hit, I'm not sure if he hit me. I have a feeling he hit me first because I rarely would hit somebody first.
Yeah.
He was the first mate.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and didn't care much for me after that. And the captain was from Northern Ireland, and he had been in the Mediterranean during the war, and he hated Irish Catholics. He barely met me, and he hated me, called me a tyke. And so I used to get all the information from the first mate, who was English. And he lost no opportunity to try to discredit me, change my reports, things like that, and then point it out to everybody. You know, but I knew what was going on. And eventually, he was engaged to a woman in Belfast, and I used to make the radio connection. And when we got, at that time, when you're far out, you couldn't do voice. It was all Morse code. So when we were fairly close, so I used to make the phone connection, and he had to come up to the radio room to take it. In the meantime, while I was waiting for him to come up, I talked to his fiancée, and we became great friends.
Oh.
So the wedding was in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and every bigwig was there, and I wasn't invited. And the first mate told me later what happened was the fiancée, she'd been in for a little while, and she said to the captain, where's Sparks? And he said, oh, that bloody papist is in his cabin. The first mate told me the whole story. And she grabbed a steward and said, take me to the radio officer's cabin. So he brought her up, and she came in, we introduced and everything, and she said, why aren't you at the party? I said, I wasn't invited. And she said, you are now, come on down. Took my hand,
Oh,
down
great.
we went. That was amazing.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. Another time, like off Halifax, ports at that time, like Halifax, New York, they had light ships, probably maybe 50 or 100 miles off the port. So you could zero, you could can't think of the right word. Using your direction finder, you could zero in on where that was, because that was sending out a strong signal, and you pick it up.
Was that a buoy or was that a ship?
No, it was an actual light ship that we always painted red.
I see.
Yeah, they had them in Ireland too. And so this one time in Halifax, I got up in the early morning, couldn't find it on the radio, and I worked my direction finder everywhere, couldn't find it. So I went down to breakfast, and the captain, then I looked on the chart in the wheelhouse, and the captain had plotted, I didn't know who plotted, he had plotted the course to the light ship. And I said, geez, I can't figure that. How can he do that? I couldn't get it. How can he get it? So down to breakfast, and the captain said, Sparks, I took a bearing on that light ship this morning, and it's plotted in the wheelhouse. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I saw it, but I couldn't get that light ship on the radio. Oh, well, it takes a little experience, he said. We get into port, and I get all my mail, all my nautical reports and everything. The light ship had been gone for 3 months. Wasn't even there.
Oh my God.
What a blatant,
Just a complete lie.
complete lie.
But yet, you got into port.
Well, there are other places you can get a direction from. You'd have other radio stations, but not as powerful.
Yeah.
And not as far out, of course. They're on shore.
Yeah.
So you take a bearing on that one,
I see.
take a bearing on that one, and where they intersected is where you are.
There you are.
Yeah.
So he did that. And then
No, he didn't.
He didn't even do
He
that.
phonied the entire thing.
Complete phony.
He showed a light ship where there was no light ship
Just to make you look bad.
to make me look. Either that, or he was completely stupid.
Oh God.
So then, shortly after that, he got a lump in his neck. After he was only married a few months, and he got a lump in his neck, and he went to a hospital in Savannah. They found it was cancer, so it was taken right off. And meantime, his sister and daughter came on board. And of course, there was a lot of speculation. You got 40-some guys, you know. Who's going to get there first?
Right.
And it was more of a game than anything else, you know. So I arranged with the chief steward to do a lot of special things in their cabin.
Yeah.
Including a record player and a stack of records and all that kind of thing. So I was in ahead. So I was dating her then.
Yeah.
And we dated, I don't know how long for. We used to go ashore in Venezuela.
Yeah.
One time I got pricked with a machete from a militia in my stomach, a little prick. And I went back to the ship and the captain said, "God damn it, you go back out." But in the meantime, he had talked to the chief of police. And the chief of police came on board and we gave him two cases of Scotch whiskey. And the problem solved. We were allowed to go ashore.
Wait, a little prick from a machete?
A little tiny prick here in my stomach. Just enough to draw.
A man pulled a machete on you and slashed you in the stomach.
Well, he didn't slash me. He went like more or less to stop me.
From going ashore?
He wasn't about to kill me.
Yeah.
But
he could have if he'd wanted to.
If he wanted to, he could. And they had a militia there then that was basically in rags. And they were part of the security.
That's it.
And they also had soldiers in proper uniform. But and you had to be very careful because I went ashore with one of the engineers one night and offered my card to the guy with the rifle. And he just go like that, you know. And so we walked on down. I was a little nervous. And we walked straight.
Yeah.
And then I heard a whistle. I said, "We better look." We turned around. He had his rifle up to his shoulder, like that. "Give me your pass."
Wow.
You know, just out to aggravate you.
Yeah.
There were reports then of sailors missing, including a British first mate. And there were reports that he was seen in the interior working as a slave. That might be, you know, wild story, but we didn't treat it that way. They hated the English at that time. So let's see what else. I hope I'm not boring everybody.
Oh no, this is great. But you had a long life here, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
You settled in the city in San Francisco.
I settled in the city and used to go to the Irish bars and KRB.
What kind of bars did you go to? What were the names of some of the bars?
The Valley Tavern, I think that was an Irish bar.
Noe Valley?
Noe Valley, yeah, on 24th Street.
Yeah.
Jeez, can I remember them now? I don't think I can right now.
Well, you went to the KRB and...
Oh, I went to the KRB and then
dances and...
You probably heard about these, there were two couples in particular that used to have benefits in their basement.
Mrs. Piggott?
Mrs. Piggott and Mrs. Bryce.
Where was Mrs. Bryce's?
She was, I think, on Church Street. Church and about 23rd, I think. They were, Mike Bryce was her husband. And I knew her better than I knew Mrs. Piggott. Mrs. Piggott was just an acquaintance. But Mrs. Bryce, I talked to quite a bit. Oh, she's just a lovely lady.
And she was from Ireland also?
Oh, yeah. And then there was a dance hall out on Clement Street.
Oh.
We used to go there.
What was that called?
I don't know. Ninth and Clement.
Ninth and Clement?
Yeah. And so I went to the Irish bar for a while, and then I began to think, you know, what am I doing here? I come to America, and I'm surrounded by Irish. And I decided, so I joined a Catholic social club called Old St. Mary's Centre.
Okay.
You've heard of that?
That's where my parents met.
No kidding.
Yes. So what year did you join Old St. Mary's?
What were their names?
Mary Garrity and Charlie Booker.
Charlie Booker sounds familiar.
Really? Do you know?
Well, let's see, what year was I there? I would have been there in the early 60s.
A little bit after.
Yeah.
But you met a lot of folks at the Old St. Mary's Center.
Oh, yeah, great people.
Yeah.
And we did different things like played golf, and I learned to ski.
Yeah.
And we had great parties up the country. I was one of the officers of the club after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we would take, I can't remember, maybe a couple of hundred people up skiing and take over a whole hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time there was a mountain of snow outside the motel.
Mm-hmm.
And we put the bottles of champagne, top in to cool it.
Nice.
I'm telling you, it was a big pile of snow.
Yeah.
It was black with bottles. Yeah. It was great fun. And coming back one time, there was champagne left over, and I was at the back of the bus opening the champagne, passing it out. And one of the corks got away from me and went forward and hit the roof, I think, of the bus, and hit this Maltese girl in the eye and gave her a black eye. Believe it or not.
God.
She was wild, but it wasn't intentional.
How could it be?
Little me.